Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today's webinar, Why Patient Engagement Capabilities Matters for MedTech Companies. Today, we're discussing the power of patients, and we'll explain how MedTech companies can benefit from an effective engagement strategy. We'll help you debunk common misconceptions regarding how MedTech companies engage with patients and identify value drivers that patient engagement strategies can unlock and determine which are best for your business. This webinar is being recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing as soon as this is finished. And we'd like today's discussion to be interactive. So go ahead and ask questions at any time during today's presentation, simply by typing in the Q&A box, and we'll get to those at the end of today's session during Q&A. And at the end of the webinar, you'll be asked to complete a short survey, and we thank you so much in advance for participating in that. So I'd like to introduce our presenters for today's session, starting with Sudhanshu Bhatnagar. Sudhanshu works in the medical devices and diagnostics industries, helping clients in different practice areas, including go-to-market strategies, Salesforce effectiveness, market planning and operations, and analytic process outsourcing. And Tanya Shefley. Tanya is a member of ZS's patient and consumer health team, which is focused on helping clients uncover how and why patients make healthcare choices to help build more impactful solutions that improve patients' lives. So I'll pass it over to you, Sudhanshu.
Great, thank you, Emma. And thank you everyone for joining us for today's webinar. We recognize the many demands on your schedule, especially in these times of work from home. So the fact that you chose to be here speaks volumes about the importance of this topic of patient engagement in medtech. Now, I'd like to begin by getting a quick pulse from our audience today on where they stand on this topic. So hopefully you'll see a quick poll form pop up on your screen in just a second here. And I'd like you to think about the question on your screen for a little while. Do you believe your organization should be doing more to engage with the patient? And the answer options are on your screen. No, should not be a priority and we don't need to do any more. Somewhat, but you're ambivalent about it. You don't know what and why. And then there are the ones who are all decided, want to do something and actually start to want to build a capability. We'll give it a second. I'm very curious to see how the audience responds to this question because it will allow us to cater to what we have. I think we have the results on our screen now, and it seems like there is a strong convergence in terms of the responses of our audience. So a lot of you believe that the industry and your organization should be doing more to engage with the patient. Well, that makes Tanya's and my job a little easy because we are absolutely going to talk about the ways in which you can build the capability and get all the building blocks in place as you start to engage more with your patients. We will also talk a little bit about what if you're undecided, what can you do as an organization to build the momentum, to create the belief that engaging with patient adds value to your organization. With that, we can remove the results from the screen and we will dive right in. So no matter how you voted on the poll question, one thing that we can all agree on, that the patients have continued to become more empowered in their own health pursuit. And this is not news to any of you. There have been several trends at play that have accelerated patient empowerment over the last many years. Whether it is emphasis on shared decision-making or value-based healthcare or digitization of healthcare and availability of information and data that has led to patient empowerment. Our providers and health systems have continued to elevate patient experience as a top priority, putting it at par with revenue and cost-related goals. In 2020, however, as COVID disrupted almost everything, it disrupted healthcare as well. And one of the impact was further acceleration of patient empowerment. Patients were taking a very thorough look on what and when they should seek care for. And this is one of the impacts of COVID that is likely to last well beyond the pandemic. So now the question really is, why is the medtech industry so slow in setting the intent as well as committing to building a capability when it comes to leveraging the power of the patient? And I'm not talking about being patient-focused. Of course, medtech as an industry has been innovating and bringing solutions that have helped patients worldwide. I'm talking about a capability that allows the medtech industry to become better partners with your patients as they pursue their health journey and their wellness. And that's the question we wanted to unpack through our work, which included research with several medtech marketing leaders that represented many different subsegments of the industry, product types, offerings. And the learnings from that work is what we'd like to share with you. Now, as we looked at the results, there were two things where we found things broke down. The first one was there is this notion of dismissiveness associated with patient engagement in the medtech industry. There are beliefs that the business I run would not benefit from engaging with the patient. Patient engagement does not help me achieve the objectives that I want to drive for my business. And therefore, this conversation is curtailed even before things can gain any momentum. It manifests itself in different ways, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The second place where we found a significant gap was that there are pockets in the industry where the belief is there. They understand the value of engaging with the patient. However, the efforts to build a capability are still very diffused. There is still a lot of challenges in bringing the organization along, in putting the right building blocks in place, and therefore the efforts seem to be scattered, far few in between, and often ad hoc. And we'll talk about both of these and give you some thought starters on how you can start to overcome some of these broken links. We'll begin with addressing the dismissive notion related to this topic of patient engagement. Now, as I mentioned, this could manifest itself in different ways. The most common versions of objections are these beliefs that we have harbored as an industry. I have a business where the product is not selected by the patient, and therefore patient engagement does not matter. Patients sometimes don't even know that which product is being used in their visit or in their intervention, and they likely don't care. And the most common objection we came across was, I'm not going to run TV ads. That's not for my business. I'm not going to spend money on running advertisements that in turn will have a very low return on my investment. However, the reality, based on the fact that there is significantly more empowered patient today, is very different. Patients can drive value in many ways. Product selection or brand choice is only one of them. There are many other ways in which engaging with patients can drive value for your business. Whether or not your product is known to the patients still care about the overall experience. And every product, implicitly or explicitly, is part of that patient experience equation. And then finally, DTC is only one component of patient marketing, and patient marketing is only one component of patient engagement. Patient engagement is much broader than DTCs and does not mean running TV ads only. Now, as we start to think about the reality, there is significant opportunity for the medtech industry to leverage the power of the patient. And it would begin by first expanding our view on the ways in which patient can add value. Now, I mentioned that oftentimes many organizations and medtech marketing organizations think about a very narrow view of patient-driven value. It's about whether the patient can play a role in driving product selection or brand selection. And in fact, that is a very constrained view of looking at things. What we need to do is first expand our view of what patient value drivers exist, because expanding that point of view is the first step in overcoming some of the biases that I just talked about. It is not only about brand use. Depending on the types of business you run, the products that you bring to market, the value could come from many ways. It could come from optimizing the patient funnel, essentially accelerating presentation, increasing awareness of the disease, and therefore also impacting acceptance of therapy. It could also mean how you engage with the patient to maximize outcomes. How do you improve doctor and patient interactions and retention on your therapy, and eventually boosting the outcomes that come through patient engagement? It could also come through upstream decisions that you make in terms of what solutions to bring to the market, streamlining efficiency of your clinical trials, and essentially rethinking your business models that could become more patient-centric. So as I mentioned, it is important to look at this from a broad lens. And we did that in our research. When we expanded the view of what value drivers existed, the participants in our research found different ways in which they could see value through patient engagement. A lot of them saw the value, about 70% of the respondents found value in optimizing that patient funnel. Another 60% felt maximizing outcomes would be a key for their business. Now, of course, the intent of these numbers is not to say that, optimizing patient funnel is the way you should go think about it for your business. That's how the results turned out in our research. But what we want to communicate here is that look at these many ways in which value could be sourced by engaging with the patient. Prioritize the one that matters most for your business, is most relevant to the things that you're trying to drive in the marketplace. And prioritizing a few of these value drivers will be an essential first step in building your patient engagement capability and overcoming some of the beliefs that we have had as an industry. So what that means is that we have to, as an industry, invest in understanding the patient more. Bring out the patient journeys that you have collected over the last years and look at them with a fresh look. Understand which one of the priority areas on that patient journey do you want to influence as a company. And in doing so, untether from some of your previous beliefs and look at it from a broader perspective, because that is what will allow you to prioritize which value drivers you want to focus on. And moreover, once you understand the priorities, then you can systematically start to think about ways in which you can engage with the patient. It could be both direct and indirect ways. Now, we understand that not all medtech is equal, and therefore the patient role varies. So it is okay that at the end of this investment in understanding your patient more and looking at priorities, that you may come out with an answer that says, this is not for me, at least not for now. And that's okay. But if you do find something that you believe can turn into a competitive advantage, into a differentiator for your business, then we need to start thinking about what are the right capability building blocks that we would like to put in place. And that's what we will talk about next. How do you build the capability that allows you to engage with your patients better? Tanya, I think you're on mute.
Oh, thank you for that, Sudhanshu. A little delay. Yes, the second area that we found here is not knowing where to start. And it's true for a number of organizations. It may also be classified as getting lost in pursuit. Essentially, not knowing which capabilities build on top of each other to be more effective or efficient for the patients and your organization. In our research, we really dug into what were the common barriers that contributed to why organizations are slow in leveraging the power of patient. It is often cited that regulatory, compliance, or struggles analyzing patient-level data are the greatest perceived barriers. But we actually found that the most commonly stated and the most impactful barriers are related to a limited focus. Questions around ownership and prioritization of patient marketing relative to other initiatives. The underlying elements here, as you can see by the stats on the right, are really about a lack of a formalized vision, which is what drives investment and resource planning. So a number of elements to consider for organizations as they go forward. There are multiple capabilities to account for as part of a patient engagement enterprise. The depth and agility of these dimensions vary by an organization. And as you can see on the next slide in our structure here in the visualization, the impact and fidelity of the patient experience brings these capabilities together, but it also has the potential to affect the depth of patient engagement. As I just noted, the aspects of leadership and culture have an overarching influence on the direction of these capabilities that reside in the other three dimensions of structure and practice, data analytics and technology, as well as cross-industry collaboration. So we really want to have a holistic view of how these capabilities come together and drive the organization's decision-making as to where to prioritize for patient engagement strategies. To help organizations better understand where to prioritize their development efforts, we recommend conducting a capability benchmark exercise to provide insights into which capabilities might have room for upscaling. Here you can see the outcome of the assessment that we conducted with those who participated in this research effort. And across these four dimensions, these med tech organizations tend to be a little less mature in their patient engagement capabilities. Now, it's helpful to view those capabilities relative to other industries where we see best practices or more progressive patient engagement strategies. Here you can see how these med tech organizations fare relative to best-in-class pharma organizations, which are resting right at that foundation and advanced capability maturity, but then also in context to best-in-class consumer organizations. Now, using a consistent instrument across these reference points allow us to create a comparative measure of the supporting capabilities that are noted on the left. I'd like to understand, for those who are participating in our discussion today, which of these dimensions would be most impactful for your organization to upscale. And we can take a quick assessment in the poll here, which gives you those four dimensions and thinking about where your organization can leverage room for improvement to engage patients. We'll take a moment to gather the responses here. And if we can show those. Let's see, data, analytics, and technology. And then I think we're pretty even amongst the others. Maybe cross-industry collaboration tends to be on the lower side as each of you gauge that. Well, actually, when we think about the opportunities, we have found three key gaps, which we recommend being focal points for prioritization to build the right foundation. The first is a formalized vision. The majority of leaders that we engaged with have no formalized vision around patient capabilities. And because of that, many of them have delayed plans or have no plans to fully fund patient engagement initiatives. That's critical to getting started. The second is a scalable structure. Few noted that they have the right ingredients for a scalable structure or org model across their business units. And a smaller subsegment responded that few of their support models go beyond the device and therapy and don't complement the total patient healthcare experience. Lastly, the third gap is around insights development. A very small number have indicated that they have a working model, working processes for democratizing insights across their organization, whether that's to regularly conduct market research, have a central location to distribute insights across business units, or regularly include patient analytics as part of a dedicated process for each of their initiatives. In the back of these three gaps, if I can reiterate why patient engagement capabilities matter to MedTech, it would be in the following. Patient influence can drive value in many ways. And now may be the time to lean into the accelerated role that patients are playing in their healthcare decision-making. Expanding your organization's view on value drivers may open broader opportunities for indirect and direct patient engagement. And then lastly, as I made mention, understanding which of your organization's capabilities are further along than others can help lay a roadmap to near-term priorities and optimize execution, which can give you near-term impact in order to deliver proof points, which is another key opportunity in rallying your organization around patient initiatives. With those end notes, we'd really welcome the opportunity to broaden this discussion and hear what questions that you might have.
Excellent. Tanya, we actually have a question for you to kick things off. So how do medtech companies participating in patient engagement measure success?
I did see that question came in early, and I wanted to wait for the Q&A. So thank you for raising that, because I think it's important to think back to the value drivers and how those scale across your business. The value drivers really need to be evaluated to set those measures back to your key business objectives so that we move beyond just engagement and potentially support mechanisms, which would be further down, but measuring engagement and participation of the voice of patient in early clinical trial development or product expansions may be another way to look at different success measures. So I think hearkening it back to the value drivers is an important starting point.
Excellent. And we have another question here. This is for you, Sudhanshu. What should I do differently to bring my organization in this journey in the next few months? Any specific steps I should take now?
Great, thank you for that question. I think one of the most important things that needs to be done is, as I mentioned, we have to start talking about patient engagement in generic terms, that we need to engage with the patient. I think we have to pivot the conversation to, we need to engage with the patient with the objective of XYZ. And that is where I think we talked about the importance of prioritizing what do you want to impact through engaging with the patient, which are the areas of value that you want to prioritize for your organization. And it requires a very thorough look in terms of the patient insights that you've collected over the years, and connecting the dots across those many pieces of research, the voices that you have heard from your patients, and building a map of what is it that you will prioritize in the next few months, and move on, and what will be that next set of capability and value drivers that will give you a competitive advantage over the next few years. Once you have been able to articulate that and quantify the impact of that would be the key to building that momentum in your organization to get the investment required, to get the resourcing required to build your capability. So I would say begin with connecting the dots across the patient insights and really thinking hard about which part of that value framework do you want to actually hone in on and prioritize for your business.
Perfect. And I think, Tanya, the next question is for you. How do you integrate research and data and analytics? In other words, where do each of these start and stop?
It's a great question, and I'm glad that was raised. We always advocate for a mixed model approach, to mixed methodologies that really bring the two together. Depending on the particular patient engagement strategy, it may definitely start with more research early on. I use the example like patient journeys and really understanding the decision pathway for patients for themselves, but also with their physicians, and if they're moving to a referral type situation. But data analytics are always critical as well. We look at a lot of, for the whole patient, there may be other claims level data that is important to understand what other health conditions they're grappling with, which may impact the uptake and onboarding of a product, as well as the rehabilitation that they may need to do post a procedure that could have an impact in readmission. So we definitely want to have that ongoing data and analytics collection, so that post-launch of a product, post expansion into a new market set, that you look at real world data through the data analytics to complement other first party or second party research that you may have done, to really give you a ongoing picture of the patient's needs.
Excellent. And Sudhanshu, how do we move forward with patient engagement in markets like India?
I think, so as we were thinking about this research, of course, the research was focused on US, but we've had some conversations with medtech forums across the globe in preparation for today's webinar. And we found that some of these themes continue to resonate. As you think about emerging markets and growth and market development efforts in those countries, the core aspects of what you want to do through patient engagement still is the core question. Right? As we were thinking about different markets and how you do things differently, there were still a lot of common themes to what we have just described in the early part of this webinar. So I would say that for emerging markets, identify what your overarching business strategy is, right? Are you introducing a new therapy that will change the paradigm in a country like India? And therefore try to understand what the decision journey looks like. What is the impact? What is the level of shared decision making that is at play in a country that is still emerging in terms of adopting a therapy that is new to them, right? that's where I think investing and understanding what happens in that doctor-patient interaction is going to be a very important element of thinking about what you want to do through to patient engagement.
Perfect. And then are there any examples or best practices you can share on how to align the leadership to commit to the vision and fund the capability among other priorities? If you want to go ahead and take that.
Yeah, we do have actually a host of those, and didn't get into that level of depth today just due to the time. But if I can have you think back to the kind of capability architecture that I shared under leadership and culture, there were a number of elements listed there, and each of those have best practices underneath them, really how to bring more stakeholders and champions within your organization, how you take some of the key success measures and make sure that that is included up to senior leadership, and even where we've seen in best practices for certain companies that those metrics are being included in their quarterly report to Wall Street, right? You start reframing the importance of patient outcomes and start talking about it in those terms, really does start to bring a lot of other individuals within an organization together to create better engagement. And there's one other question that came that I want to tie this to, which is, are patients really asking to be closer to med tech companies? We started this discussion more in the vein of what do med tech companies need to do? So medical device companies from that broader angle. In separate research, we do see that patients are really looking for more of that shared decision making with their physicians. They're looking for more help in their care, and they're being asked to take on greater burden in the cost. So do they want to be closer to the med tech companies? No, they want greater help and participation in managing their care and their decision making. And that's where we see the opportunity for med tech to lean into the power that patient brings in the decision making.
And that is one of the key things that we mentioned at the outset, right? This is about becoming better partners for your patients as they make their healthcare decisions, right? And what role can medtech play in providing that information, whether through a direct channel or an indirect way of making sure that the providers are able to have that dialogue with the patients, are both equal opportunities for medtech to take notice of. So we'd say that think about that aspect on how you can help the patients make a better decision, as the onus on making those decisions is increasingly on the patient.
I'm just taking a look at here to see if there's anything else. I think
Emma, there's one question that came up, like, how does the context of this dialogue change if you're not talking about brand and product marketing, but thinking about market growth and development? I think I wanted to address that because that is an important area and one of the core takeaways from this work that we have done. Patient engagement is not only about product choice. I think I began that conversation of value drivers by stating that aspect of it, right? Oftentimes you'll find many medtech companies are actually not running brands and products, and therefore patients are not necessarily playing a role. A very significant source of value through patient engagement will come in that optimization of the patient funnel, which directly relates to market development. How are we educating the patient to accelerate presentation, to allow them to figure out, have they been diagnosed in the appropriate way, what options exist, and especially in interconnected therapy offerings, right? Like as medtech industry is looking more for category completeness, in disease areas, and they're launching products that are connected, it is all the more important to think about your patient in their long-term patient journey, right? Not necessarily at just point of intervention for a single product, but how does the patient move all the way from experiencing symptoms to what their first stage therapies look like and what the next stage would look like in their wellness journey. If you have that picture, it allows you to very methodically invest in market development efforts that go way beyond just product and brand selection.
Perfect. I think we're just about time here. So Tanya, Sudhanshu, that was an amazing presentation. Big thank you, and thank you to our audience. If there's any questions we didn't get to, we can follow up afterwards. As I mentioned, you'll be launched to a brief survey. If you can take a couple of minutes to fill that out, that would be great. And then this presentation will be available on ds.com. And thank you again so much, Tanya, Sudhanshu. Amazing work. We will talk to everybody soon.